warm welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra and you're watching another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. India's expanding global economic footprint received a major boost as New Delhi and the European Union concluded a historic free trade agreement. Announced at the 16th India-EU Summit in the national capital, the pact marks a significant step forward in bilateral economic engagement, strengthening cooperation between two of the world's largest economies amid a rapidly evolving global trade landscape. Take a look.
India's strategic diplomacy continues to yield results on the global stage, reinforcing the country's position as a trusted economic partner. Through consistent engagement and dialogue, New Delhi has played a key role in advancing a forward-looking trade agenda with the European Union. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen jointly announced the conclusion of the India-European Union Free Trade Agreement at the 16th India-EU Summit in New Delhi. The announcement marks a historic milestone in India-European Union economic relations and trade engagement with key global partners. The free trade agreement positions India and the European Union as trusted partners committed to open markets, predictability and inclusive growth. The pact comes after intensive negotiations following the relaunch of talks in 2022, reflecting years of sustained dialogue, cooperation and strong political will on both sides to deliver a balanced and rules-based trade partnership.
यह एफटीए भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच इन्वेस्टमेंट को बूस्ट करेगा, नई इनोवेशन पार्टनरशिप बनाएगा और वैश्विक स्तर पर सप्लाई चेन को मजबूत करेगा। यानी यह सिर्फ ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट नहीं है, यह साझा समृद्धि का नया ब्लूप्रिंट है।
This trade will integrate further our supply chain and strengthen our joint manufacturing power. It will cut up to 4 billion euros in annual tariffs for exporters of all sizes. And it will create good jobs for millions of workers here in India and in Europe.
The European Union is one of India's largest trading partners, with bilateral trade in goods and services expanding steadily over the years. According to India's Ministry of Commerce and Industry, in 2024 to 2025, India's bilateral trade in goods with the European Union stood at $136.54 billion with exports worth $75.85 billion and imports amounting to $60.68 billion. Together, India and the European Union are the fourth and second largest economies globally, accounting for nearly 25% of global GDP and one-third of global trade. The integration of these two diverse and complementary economies is expected to generate unprecedented trade and investment opportunities.
This free trade agreement between European Union and India places India at the high table of international geopolitics. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India has today found recognition and importance across the world. The world sees India as the fastest growing large economy, a country with strong macroeconomic fundamentals, a company growing very rapidly in terms of demand that 1.4 billion people, 140 crore Indians generate. Aspirational young India, full of talent and skills, is today wanted as a trading partner, as a strategic ally by all developed nations across the world.
I think in a world situation where we have high geopolitical uncertainty, we are being challenged on the rule-based trade, we needed good news and potential growth going forward. And the FTA between India and EU is just that. It's opening up a combined huge market and opportunities for large Indian companies, SME European companies. This is something we've never seen before.
In financial services, the agreement promotes cooperation to advance innovation, facilitate secure cross-border electronic payments, and provide India with enhanced market access across major European Union member states. These measures are expected to deepen financial integration and expand trade in services. Beyond services, the pact also strengthens collaboration in critical raw materials and supply chains, areas of growing global importance.
India is an important market. It's 1.4 billion inhabitants. It may be an interesting and important source for rare earth and other raw materials. So I think it is a very important step in the right direction, very welcome, particularly in context of the problems we are having in other regions of the world.
The conclusion of the India-European Union Free Trade Agreement underscores India's growing influence in shaping global economic outcomes through dialogue and cooperation. As India and Europe move forward together, the agreement lays a strong foundation for resilient supply chains, deeper integration, and long-term prosperity in an evolving global order.
Bangladesh has entered a crucial election season as political parties launch nationwide campaigns ahead of national polls scheduled for February 12th. The vote comes after months of political upheaval that dramatically reshaped the country's landscape, including the fall of a long-standing government and the installation of an interim administration led by Muhammad Yunus. With concerns over political stability, rising polarization, and the security of minority communities, the election is being closely watched, both domestically and internationally, as a key test of Bangladesh's democratic direction. Take a look.
Bangladesh, one of South Asia's most densely populated nations, is heading into a pivotal election seen as a test of its democratic future. The country's main political parties have kicked off official campaigns just weeks before national elections due on February 12th. The youth-led National Citizen Party opened its campaign in Dhaka with a march to the tomb of Sharif Osman Hadi, an activist who was recently killed. Islamist party Jamaat-e-Islami also began campaigning in the capital, where thousands gathered to hear its leader Shafiqur Rahman.
এই সবগুলার মূল কারণ হলো ইনসাফ না থাকা। ইনসাফ যদি থাকতো তাহলে সমাজে দুর্নীতিবাজরা, লুটেরারা, ডাকাতরা ব্যাংক ডাকাতি করে জনগণের সম্পদ লুটপাট করে এই দেশ থেকে নিরাপদে পালানোর সুযোগ পেত না।
উভয় জোটের জন্য একই রকম আচরণ বিধি থাকতে হবে, কোনো ধরনের বৈষম্য মেনে নেওয়া হবে না।
The Bangladesh Nationalist Party also launched its campaign in the northeastern district of Sylhet. Party chief Tariq Rahman held roadshows across the tea-growing region, drawing large crowds. Security was tight at campaign events, and authorities reported no incidents of violence.
আগামী দিনে এই 12 তারিখের নির্বাচনে আপনারা যদি ধানের শীষকে ইনশাআল্লাহ জয়যুক্ত করেন তাহলে আমরা বিএনপি সরকার গঠন করলে প্রত্যেকটি পরিবারের মায়ের কাছে, প্রত্যেকটি পরিবারের গৃহিণীর কাছে আমরা এরকম একটা ফ্যামিলি কার্ড নিয়ে যেতে চাই, দিতে চাই তাদেরকে।
For many voters, particularly young people, the stakes are high. Bangladesh's Gen Z voters, many casting ballots for the first time, are approaching the election with a mix of hope, skepticism, and demands for meaningful change.
What we saw in the previous regime or in the previous time, that the people of Bangladesh were treated politically, that which political bloc they belong to. But I want to see a change in this perspective, that the people of this country will not be treated politically for their political, the political bloc or political party affiliation. But I hope that the people of this land will be treated as a citizen. They will be given the citizen rights, the basic rights. They will be treated only as citizens, not with their political affiliation.
The election is widely seen as a key test for democracy after an interim government led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus took power in August 2024. His administration assumed office following weeks of violent unrest that toppled former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, left hundreds dead, and forced her to flee the country. The Yunus-led interim government has seen struggle to restore stability, facing criticism for failing to rein in political violence and for governing without a clear electoral mandate. Concerns have also been raised over rising attacks on religious minorities, as deepening political polarization and the growing influence of religious hardliners continue to destabilize the country.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
Foreign ministers from Southeast Asia met to discuss key regional issues, including heightened tensions in the South China Sea, the escalating civil war in Myanmar, and a border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia. The foreign ministers' retreat of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations aims to set the bloc's agenda for the year under the chairmanship of the Philippines. Manila is also aiming this year to finish a long-delayed code of conduct for the South China Sea, where tensions have escalated over the past 3 years. An alliance of Shiite political factions that commands a majority in Iraq's parliament selected former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki as its candidate for the premiership. The decision cleared the way for talks to form a new Iraqi government, which will have to carefully manage relations between the United States and Iran. Leaders from 7 Japanese political parties took part in a pre-election debate in Tokyo ahead of the official launch of campaigning for the February 8 vote. Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi was questioned about the effects of her Liberal Democratic Party's proposal to suspend the 8% sales tax on food and beverages for 2 years after worries over how the policy would be funded unsettled bond markets last week. Yoshihiko Noda, head of the main opposition Centrist Reform Alliance, who has also called for cutting the food sales tax, faced similar scrutiny during the debate. Cambodia has deported more than 70 South Korean nationals suspected of links to alleged scam operations, with the removals taking place late on January 22 at Phnom Penh Techo International Airport. The 65 men and 8 women were part of a wider group of over 260 South Koreans detained during recent anti-scam operations in the country. Attention on scam centers in Southeast Asia has intensified since the death of a South Korean student last summer who was reportedly coerced into working at a scam facility in Cambodia. On January 28, a South Korean court sentenced former First Lady Kim Kyon-hee to 1 year and 8 months in prison after convicting her of taking bribes from officials linked to the Unification Church in exchange for political favors. Kim, the wife of former President Yoon Suk-yeol, who was removed from office last year, was acquitted of charges related to stock manipulation and violations of political funding laws. Prosecutors had saw a 15-year prison term and fines totaling 2.9 billion won, citing allegations that she received luxury Chanel handbags and a diamond necklace from the Unification Church in return for political influence.
Residents of Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan protested prolonged power outages, claiming that ordinary households face severe electricity shortages while officials enjoy uninterrupted supply. Locals say the crisis has disrupted daily life, education and livelihoods, forcing families to rely on firewood in freezing winter conditions. The region is also struggling to recover from the 19 January earthquake, with hundreds of families still living in makeshift tents. Residents warn that if authorities continue to ignore their plight, protests could escalate, leaving many trapped in worsening conditions.
Anger is mounting in Gizeh district of Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan. where residents recently staged a protest against prolonged power outages and alleged discriminatory electricity distribution by authorities. Protesters claim that while ordinary residents endure severe load shedding, struggling even to light a bulb, government officials and select colonies continue to receive uninterrupted electricity. Locals say the crisis has paralyzed daily life, disrupted education and livelihoods, and forced families to rely on firewood to survive freezing winter conditions.
कम से कम बंदे के कपड़े तो इस्त्री हो, घर के अंदर इतनी जुल्म नहीं होने चाहिए। अब देखें, अगर वो बिजली ठीक है, अगर उनके पास में कमी रहती तो हम मान लेते हैं। उनके यहाँ पे टोटली मखसूस 200 घरानों के लिए अलग से एक ट्रांसफार्मर इन्होंने लगाए हैं, 200 या 300 का या 400 का जितना भी केवी ट्रांसफार्मर लगाए हैं, वहाँ से उनको सही तरीके से बिजली जा रही है, ठीक है। और यहाँ पे आम पब्लिक के लिए तो बिजली है ही नहीं। जब इस वक्त यहाँ पे बिजली न होने की वजह से बहुत सारे बच्चे इस वक्त ऑनलाइन पढ़ रहे हैं, वो ज़्यादा डिस्टर्ब हैं। बहुत सारे बच्चे इस वक्त ऑनलाइन कारोबार कर रहे हैं, वो बहुत एक बड़ी आबादी इस वक्त टाउन की तरफ शिफ्ट हो रही है खाली बिजली की वजह से।
Protesters accused the local administration of widespread civil neglect, saying repeated complaints have yielded no action. They warned of intensified protests, including road blockades, if their demands continue to be ignored. Residents also highlighted the government's failure to address the plight of earthquake victims. The 19 January earthquake in Pakistan-occupied Gilgit-Baltistan left the Chapursaran Valley devastated, with around 600 households affected and nearly 300 damaged. Hundreds of families, including children and the elderly, remain exposed in makeshift tents amid freezing winter temperatures, while authorities have limited their response to paperwork, offering no real relief on the ground.
एक भी घर ऐसा नहीं है कि जहाँ पे इंसान अंदर जाने के लिए मतलब वो कतराता है कि वो किस तरह उस घर के अंदर जाएगा। बच्चे, चीरखार बच्चे, बुजुर्ग, बीमार जो है ना, वो खुले आसमान तले इसी जो पर्दे वाले टेंट के अंदर हम लोग जिंदगी गुजारने पे मजबूर हो गए हैं।
Chapursan villagers have called for an emergency declaration and full deployment of state resources, warning that their livelihoods depend on this land. But with Pakistan-backed POGB administration continuing to ignore their pleas, residents say they remain trapped in a worsening crisis, with no electricity, no relief, and no hope for urgent government action.
India celebrated its 77th Republic Day with grandeur and military might in New Delhi, welcoming EU leaders as chief guests. The parade debuted indigenous defense systems and BSF women jawans with camels and cultural tableaus reflecting India's diversity. At Wagah, visitors expressed pride and energy, while in Ayodhya, devotees thronged Ram Temple. The celebrations concluded with the beating retreat at Atari Wagah, showcasing military precision and patriotic fervour. Take a look. India displayed its military might and cultural vibrancy on 26 January 2026 during the 77th Republic Day celebrations in the capital New Delhi. European Union leaders attended as chief guests, witnessing the grandeur firsthand. Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted President Draupadi Murmu, European Council President Antonio Costa, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen as they arrived at Kartavya Path to witness the parade. This year, the parade featured the debut of several indigenously developed defense systems and the impressive marching of BSF jawans. The celebrations also showcased Bactrian camels and thematic tableaus reflecting India's rich cultural diversity. The celebrations were not limited to New Delhi. Across India, citizens joined in patriotic fervour. At the Wagah border, the patriotic energy was palpable among visitors.
वाघा बॉर्डर पे मनाने आज बहुत ही ज्यादा अच्छा लग रहा है। वंदे मातरम, भारत माता की जय। बहुत ही बहुत ही ज्यादा जोश है। और ये आज कह रहा था मेरा बेटा कि चलो हम वही देख के आएंगे, इस बार हर बार टीवी पे देखते हैं पर इस बार वही देखें।
जवानों का आत्मबल बढ़ाने के लिए देश की सुरक्षा जो ये रात दिन कर रहे हैं, तो उनकी आत्मबल बढ़ाने के लिए हम लोग यहाँ मौजूद रहे आज।
In Ayodhya, devotees flocked to Ram Temple after the parade, while police ensured strict crowd management to maintain order. Along the northern border, the Indian Army's 6th Rashtriya Rifles organized the Republic Day event at the Ruhe Hind flag site, marking the first major public celebration following Operation Sindoor. Local youth and residents participated with immense enthusiasm.
यहाँ पे काफ़ी जोश है, सब जो भी यंग यूथ है उसमें काफ़ी जोश है और जज्बात के साथ। और यहाँ पे हमारे ये जो केरन सेक्टर 0 लाइन पे खुशियों से आज यहाँ पे हमारा तिरंगा लहरा रहा है। तो हमारा जितने भी यूथ है और यहाँ की जो आवाम है केरन सेक्टर की, तो इन्होंने काफ़ी मतलब जोश और जज्बे के साथ इसमें पार्टिसिपेट किया।
The ceremony showcased a spectacular display of military precision, patriotic fervor, and cultural pageantry, with soldiers and officers marching in perfect unison.
From parade grounds to sacred sites, patriotism echoed across India. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.